Hello everyone, this is Mike from Dimensional Walking, and today we're going to do something I think that'll really get a few of you folks out there quite excited because there's a segment of the population that loves to talk about this subject, and it is star children. Okay, and I'm going to title this one Star Children, They Just Know. They just know. Okay, and anyways, so I give you a little bit of a background on some of my feelings about star children. I've had some experiences with them throughout my life, and I know of other people that have also. So these children that are also called the star ones, uh, uh, in the early days, of course, star children become star adults, and that's obviously they just don't stay children, so they do become adults. And my feelings is if you look back on history, there are many, great adventurers, great explorers, artists, scientists, etc., that would probably fall under those categories. I can name two of them, and there's many more. I would say Michelangelo and Plato are two of them that come to mind way back. Okay, and it seems the reason is I'm saying that is because they seem to be beyond their years in many ways, like in kindness and in wisdom. Um, and I think that's really important. And they were probably sent here because of the times, because there's a great deal of tyranny and a great deal of human suffering, and they were here to bring out maybe the goodness in humanity and progress humanity along out of those dark times. Um, so star children, they're also called indigo children, crystal, rainbow, and they're basically all meaning the same. Truth of mind and purity of heart is the way I like to call it. So let's talk about some of the traits that they have. I have a kind of a list I compiled, through research and some of the things that I personally have observed in these children. Um, and some of them become adults, of course, and obviously, well, most of them become adults, and then some are teenagers, etc. So one of the things, they seem to be all right-brained in many ways. They are involved in a lot of art type areas, um, and humanitarian type areas. Um, Humanitarian type areas is what I meant. Um, and then they seem to also have the ability to handle difficult situations. Um, maybe these are experiences that they've had in their life, or maybe they're part, let's say, for instance, as they grow up, they become part of like a nonprofit that has to deal with a lot of very difficult situations, and they deal with it, and they deal with it very, very well. Um, then many of them are empathic. They're very sensitive to human energies, and of course that puts them in a vulnerable place because the simple fact that if you're empathic, if you know what I'm going to tell you, is that you feel everybody else's energies. Not That's not only good energies, but it can be darker energies. So you have to, you got to be able to protect yourself from that, and the star children do that very well. Then they seem to love nature, and they seem to love animals, and they're very good with dealing with nature, and they're very good with animals. So that's another trait or another list on my list. Okay, and of course they have the wisdom beyond their years, and I'll give you a couple examples of that later on. Um, Most of them are, they're when they're children, they just incredibly know things that, for the most part, they probably shouldn't at that particular age. It's quite incredible. Typically, when parents have star children and they start saying things and doing things that are, like I say, maybe 10, 15 years older, that older children are doing, it just blows them away. It blows their parents away. And I had conversations with parents in the past that, just shake their head. And some of them are quite disturbed by it. We always worry about our children going to be normal, but when they're super normal, beyond normal, then that also scares people too. So, also, um, it seems like they, as star children, they seem to be able to look deep inside adult minds, meaning that they seem to look and they seem to understand adults extremely well, and they seem to be able to look inside their minds. I know that sounds strange, but I've been in the presence of several star children, and I had a very eerie feeling when I was with them, and that was one of the things that came across my mind. Um, so, anyways, um, let's see what else we got. I got some more on my list here. So, uh, they have healing abilities. Um, more of that happens later in life, but they seem to know a lot about healing. They seem to know again beyond their years. And some of them actually have demonstrated healing animals, like little pets or something that get ill or sick. They may put their some hands on them, or they have some knowledge how to heal them. There's been some really good examples of that where family pets were healed by the children, or seem to be healed by the children. Um, and it also seems like they don't need quite as much sleep, and they don't seem to need as much food as normal children do. They seem to be able to go, and you always have to kind of catch up to them, say, "Oh, you want to eat something? You want to drink something?" And most of the time they say, "No, no, no." Now, obviously, they get enough. They're not starving or anything, but they just don't seem to be that interested in eating or drinking. They seem to be interested in learning, and they're curious about everything. Um, they have sudden changes in behavior. Um, Most of it's always seems to be good, and they seem to change with a little bit of the phases of the moon. Um, and I'm I have never witnessed that, but there are people that have told me they have, where if they kind of watch the moon cycles, there are some changes, and again, I haven't noticed it, so I don't exactly know which full moon or waning moon exactly how the feelings go or how the changes are, but there seem to be some changes, a pattern, something to do with the moon. Um, Also, they're very drawn to the night. They're very drawn to stars. They're very drawn to moon. Not Nobody seems to know why, but they were constantly would be going outside. They'd be looking up in the sky. Uh, I don't know. Nobody seems to know exactly what they're looking for, but I'll talk about a little bit more about the stars in a little bit. They also, one of the things they do, and this is one thing that I learned, is they seem to want to communicate with invisible beings or invisible folk. I used to kind of coach or advise adults that had children that were constantly talking to invisible beings, beings that were in their closet, etc. And that was a common trait. I think it is a common trait of star children also. Okay, so that's the list. Now, if you have a child or you know some young child that has some of those traits or abilities in this case, um, could they be a star child? Yes, they could. If they have all of them, uh, probably a high probability, yes, but it doesn't necessarily mean that precisely. I mean, yeah, I'd probably say if you had, 3/4 of this, I'd say there's a high probability that you or a child or a younger relative child um, is a star child, which is very cool. It's all cool. I don't see anything negative with this, just so you know. This is all positive. Um, but expect, if it happens to be your child, expect that it's going to make you run faster the rest of your life, which is probably good, which is definitely probably good in many ways. So, anyways, so um, let's go back to a little general conversation. Um, so I believe that some of the major leaders of big companies, etc., have star seed origins. Okay, I don't exactly know which planet or which star or whatever they come from, etc. I will not tell you. I know because I don't, and I don't think anybody else does. Some of these people, though, you know, I'm not going to say, I did tell you a few minutes ago that being a star child was a positive thing. And I think generally when they are children, it is very positive. Now, it doesn't mean that when they become adults, that they're always going to be always great for society. I think that there probably is a lot of star children that are that make it into adulthood and are like heads of companies, etc. And I think some of those, probably just a reasonably small portion of them, don't turn out so well and become kind of dark in the way they maybe run a company, etc. So again, I just wanted to say that because I don't want you to lead to believe once you're a star child and you're going to be this amazing, or you have a star child, they're going to be these amazing people from being a child all the way through. Generally speaking, when they're a child, they are amazing and they're very, very good to animals, very good to people, very good to everybody. But as they get older, some of them do veer to kind of a little bit of the dark side, and they're not always these wonderful executives running companies. They are a little bit of a fallen angel there, I think, in some cases. So keep that in mind. So that brings, well, let me say this. One of the things I did witness, when I lived in Atlanta, I became part of a group of gifted children. Okay. Now, not only these were some gifted children, but they were gifted adults. And some of these adults were some pretty amazing stories. And I probably should have done this part separate. And I may have to do another video on it. But this group was actually of adults that suddenly, maybe they were star children and they didn't realize it. Suddenly they were like activated to a maximum extent. And suddenly they almost woke up one day and they were inventing things and they were realizing that suddenly they felt different. They were doing things that they never did before. And I can remember one of the stories was a guy that had delivered mail for 30 some years, and all of a sudden he woke up one day, and even though he had some really good traits, and he was a really good person, and people loved him, and all this other stuff, he was probably better than the average person in many ways, but suddenly he just activated in some way. And all of a sudden he was there. He was kind of inventing. Turned into being, he retired and he became an inventor and he invented all kinds of really cool little things. And he showed me these things. And one of them was this crazy anti-gravity thing. It was wild. So anyways, and I'm not really supposed to, at the time I promised I wouldn't tell any secrets about it, and I really couldn't tell you any secrets, even if it happened yesterday, how it worked, etc. But I remember he did levitate a couple of small objects. It was pretty crazy and amazing, and I'm pretty sure it was real. He wasn't hoaxing me. But anyways, it seems like sometimes, again, the reason I brought that little story up is that some star children, even though they have the traits, but they're not at a very high level, they suddenly can become activated later in life. And it's kind of like this super surprise. It's like, what happened? I went to bed and all of a sudden now I got these abilities. Well, I'm not sure what happens, why that happens, but it seems to happen. And there was probably 8 people in Atlanta that had similar stories that it was activated later in life. Even though if you go back and look at their earlier years, you could see that they had some of the traits that I talked about previous. So, anyways, so now I'm going to talk about one story. Several years ago, Rainbow and I met a family, and they had a 2-year-old child. Okay, and as soon as we met her, the little girl, as soon as we met her, we knew there was something quite different about her. But we didn't know anything about her. Okay, so this was fresh for us. But she did have, right out of the box, we noticed her vocabulary was very advanced, very advanced. She could, for a 2-year-old, she was easily talking like a 7 or 8, even older child. Okay, she was very bright. She had a really, really wonderful energy about her. Very active, very active. Always moving, and always curious about everything. Um, so, so we suspected after our first meeting, we suspected that she was a star child. Okay, Rainbow and I just Rainbow being an empath and me just having other experiences with star children, I could feel it. Rainbow definitely could. Okay, but then her mother told us a story that another visit. Her mother told us a story that to me really clinched it, and Rainbow too. So they were outside. They live out in a rural area, so they got these wonderful views of stars at night. Okay, so the mother has on her cell phone. She's got an app, and I guess anybody can get this app. It's nothing special. It's called a star positioning app. So if you take it there and you look them in the sky and you look down at your phone, it tells you what this constellation is or what this star is or what the moon. I actually got the app and used it, and it's pretty cool. It really is. The only thing where we live, it's not quite the light. The light, we have a lot of trees, and the lights um, from the light around us at night takes away from it. So if we did this out somewhere else, we could probably really see some of these stars. But anyways, so she took it outside, and she had her child with her in her arm actually, and she was just doing this thing. I don't know why she was, um, doing it with her out there, but she was, and so she was playing with it, and then all of a sudden, I guess the child took the phone from her, and she was kind of moving the phone around, kind of like her mother was doing, right? Kind of looking for what was up above them, right? And all of a sudden, she shouted out. The girl shouted out, the little girl, "Vila, Vila," and her mother's. She didn't know what that exactly meant, and then she kind of grabbed the phone from her, and she looked up, and there was Constellation Vila, and she said the name correctly, okay, and precisely. And it was very clear, she said. She said she couldn't believe it because she looked down and there it was. And this child, in theory, cannot read at 2 years old, but it could say that. And then what was more incredible, the mother was kind of stunned, um, and she took the phone away and they shut the phone off and they walked back in the house. And the child kept on carrying on about Vila, Vila, Vila. She said it over and over again for quite a while, and really excited also. Um, so the mother just asked the daughter. I mean, I don't think she planned to ask her, but she just asked her, maybe because she was just going on and on about it. And she said, "How did you know?" And the child looked back at her very seriously and just said, "I just knew." She said, "I just knew." Just like that. A 2-year-old told her, "I just knew." So, I don't know what to say about that. Uh, I thought it was incredible. I believe the story. I really do. This is a very credible person, and she wouldn't make this up. And knowing the child, I could see her saying that. Um, but it was from a 2 year old to say that there's something going on. I think she was definitely a star child. So it's going to kind of be interesting to see what happens to her as she grows up. So, anyways, with all that said, I hope you enjoyed. And with all that said, um, happy trails. And if you want to send us a private email, maybe you had some more questions about star children, you can send it to dimensionalwalking@gmail.com, or you can comment here. We answer all our comments and all our emails. And other than that, please subscribe. We need your subscriptions. Like us if you like us. And that's it. We'll see you. Bye bye.